Yo, what's up, everybody? This is NorbCam coming at you. Man, this has just been a weird day. All kinds of bugs last night, today, cameras. Oh, look, I'm still not there. I'm still not there. What happened to me? Hold on a second. I'm the invisible man. We are going to talk about about this Josh Gordon situation, but apparently I'm invisible. Okay, I'm gonna get in here somehow. Wow. Yeah, the bugs just keep on coming. I was there and now I'm gone. Okay, this might just have to be Squavo, because apparently I'm invisible. So Squavo, thank goodness you're here. Can we hear you?
I sure hope so.
Okay, well, I'm just going to be the quiet voice while I try to see if I can get a picture up here. But let's talk about this real quick. Oh, there, now I know what happened. But it's too late for me now. Ooh. All right, so, man, Josh Gordon, the news broke today that he got reinstated finally about a year after he got thrown in the slammer. So he's going to be available to join the team, resume activities December 21st, right? That's kind of the news on that. I believe when he can actually be full participant, which means he'd be able to start playing in the games, the final two games, which is the most important games, the rematch of the NFC West when we play the Rams and the 49ers. So I think overall this is good news. The question is, what do you think the Seahawks will actually do? How will they work him into the lineup? What's your thoughts? It's been such off the radar, and suddenly it's here. Now all of a sudden, if you're Coach Carroll and offensive coordinator, how do you use Josh Gordon now that you finally will have him to game plan in a few weeks? What do you think?
Well, Norb, you brought it up before the season when talking about Antonio Brown and the potential of bringing him into Seattle, and how if we were to bring him in, you almost wanted him to just be here for the final stretch of the season, where he could just be the cherry on top to that championship run that, can create crucial plays at times, but doesn't have to be there for the entire season and doesn't have to be someone that we rely on. I think that's exactly the role that Josh Gordon is going to play, and it's perfect, the games that he's coming back for. We all know how we got the two New York teams coming up. We got Washington coming up, but then we have two really difficult games against the Rams, who already beat us this year and who we struggle with ever since Sean McVay arrived, and we have the San Francisco 49ers, who even when they're bad, they're good, so they always have a chance to beat us. And Josh Gordon last year, when he played for Seattle, his biggest plays were against the Rams and against the 49ers. That's what was so important about bringing him back onto this team. You remember late in that 49ers game on the road in San Francisco, which is where our Week 17 game is this year. He had a huge third down conversion at the end of the fourth quarter, and he had a huge third down conversion in overtime that helped us get that victory and end San Francisco's undefeated season. A lot of us don't remember, but against the Rams, when we were out of that game 12-28 in the end and trying to come back, we were in a 4th and 18 scenario, and Josh Gordon actually converted that for us. And he's converted multiple. That 51-yard catch, I think it was, against Carolina was also a 2nd and 18 scenario. So 2nd and long on the sticks, or any long scenario behind the sticks, is going to be a huge situation for Josh Gordon. You also talk about the potential matchups. DK Metcalf this year, any game that he has less than 90 yards, the Seahawks are 1-2 on the season. 2 games against Arizona and then 1 game against the Los Angeles Rams. Jalen Ramsey, unfortunately, has been getting the best of DK Metcalf in that matchup. And while I don't think it's 100% on DK, I do think Jalen Ramsey is doing a really good job against DK. So what that creates is an opportunity for Josh Gordon to come in and be another guy that defenses have to worry about. You remember we just lost Greg Olsen for the season. That's a savvy veteran who can help us convert situationally and move the sticks to keep drives alive. That's what Josh Gordon brings to the table, big body. So all in all, it's a really good addition for Seattle.
So really, the question is, it is really the scenario I had talked about when we were flirting with the idea of Antonio Brown being brought back. Well, now it's Josh Gordon being brought back at that exact time, right in time for the playoffs, right in time. Really, our playoffs really begin in week 15 or 16 and 17, because that game against the Rams is going to have playoff implications. The 49er game, while they may not be a playoff team, that win or loss will have playoff seeding implications for sure, especially with the way that the NFC is stacked right now at the top. So the question is, between now and that time, how in shape do we think Josh Gordon is going to be? I mean, it's been a year since he's been on the field. Has he been working out? Has he been just sitting on the couch, eating Cheetos, or has he been staying in shape, game-ready shape? And then secondly, how long will it take to get him into rotated into the offense? The thought of a tip-top Josh Gordon lining up with the likes of DK Metcalf over here and Tyler Lockett over here and Josh Gordon over here, and the secondary having to decide which of these three super talented wide receivers they're going to have to chase after. Definitely, I love that idea. But the question is, will it be addition by addition? Or is it possible that, it's trying to force him to work into the lineup, potentially going to be, add some kind of weird wrinkle to the chemistry, which we all have already seen is a pretty good one right now. What do you think? Is there any possibility this could be a negative side, or is it really more of that they'll just sort of use him in real sparing situations?
Well, I feel like his expectations are low, and that's the great thing about Josh Gordon. First of all, he's shown the fight and the fact that he wants to be in the NFL really badly. That's why he keeps fighting back from all these suspensions, all of these obstacles that are getting in the way of his NFL career, and he keeps fighting back. He wants to have a role with Seattle. Seattle is the place that has accepted him. He's worked with us. He wants to be able to compete. He wants to be able to build back up his football resume by being in a successful situation, and what better situation than behind DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. So I think we're only going to need him for a couple crucial situations down the stretch of ball games. So his conditioning isn't really going to be a concern to me. And we saw him show up after, no time practicing last year, during the season and come in and have an impact. So I really think Josh Gordon, given certain circumstances and now with the amount of time that he has to prepare for this return, I feel like he is going to be in shape. And I feel like his impact is going to be felt. Des Bryant recently signed with the Baltimore Ravens. He's a little bit later on in his career, but he still had a chance to catch a game-winning touchdown for the Ravens against Tennessee just a couple of weeks ago. And we saw the impact that adding someone so late on in the season, even though I would argue Des Bryant at this point in his career, not as good as Josh Gordon, and clearly the supporting cast in terms of wide receivers in Baltimore, not as good as in Seattle, and Des Bryant was still almost able to win a football game for Baltimore. So I think Josh Gordon's impact is going to be tremendous. A couple weeks back, I posted that video. We talked about it yesterday about how we shouldn't panic about our pass rush. And the reason behind it was because we're bringing in so many different guys that at any given point can make one play that change a game. We know Seattle's going to be in these tight games. Josh Gordon is another one of those players that can make that play to win us that game, especially against the Los Angeles Rams. We struggled to score against them. They've eliminated DK. They've made him irrelevant. Tyler Lockett hasn't had the biggest games against the Rams either. So where do we get that extra spark? We just added him. Hopefully, Josh Gordon will be available.
Schematically, since you play Madden, you're very good at Madden. I'm just starting to get to know it, which completely gives you a different idea of how you would set your receivers, kind of what your plays are going to be. So, is he just going to be? If DK is number one and Tyler Lockett is number two, and he assumedly then becomes number three, does he just sort of take the spot of where David Moore would have been in the lineup and pretty much run the same positions? Or do you think they would actually change formationally what they would use him at versus what they would do if it's just David Moore? Do they literally just, is it now what's David Moore? He's number 83, right? So David Moore of 83, now he's just going to be number 10, Josh Gordon. Is it going to be as simple as a switch out? Or do you think they would actually tweak the playbook with the talents of Josh Gordon?
Well, when you're talking about the game of football, a lot of coaches will run the same concept out of different formations. So what I think we're going to get with Josh Gordon, I don't think it's a perfect match where he just swaps out with David Moore, because they're different styles of players. Josh Gordon is more of a big body guy, whereas David Moore is not. So where I think Josh Gordon fits in, we change formations and run similar concepts that we were running to Greg Olsen earlier on in the season. Those short yardage, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 5, get him the ball. Or if we need someone down the field too, he's a sure-handed receiver to the likes of a Greg Olsen. So I really think he replaces that Greg Olsen role more than a David Moore, and I think we just change formations. We don't necessarily line him up at tight end, but we run those same concepts out of different formations and different packages and put him in kind of the role of Greg Olsen.
Yeah, I remember last year he didn't do a lot. He was kind of used in very specific roles, but he was very key, I remember, to beating San Francisco. He had some pretty key, I think you'd mentioned, conversions where they used him in, I believe, a couple of slant patterns they used him at against that team. And then he had the big one, I believe it was almost 50 yards against Carolina on a deep bomb, was one of the most memorable plays of 2019 where we had Josh Gordon. So that definitely, it feels like a lot of what DK does is something that he can also do. We saw a lot of slant patterns against the Eagles last week. We saw the deep ball in the post, which is exactly what Gordon was doing. So, it seems to me that when they do use him, what could be the possibility is if they're worried about having to cover those guys downfield, well, Tyler Lockett is just going to be like, hey, I'm over here. So that may open up a lot of things for him, as well. So, man, I'm excited. Do you see any downside to this happening here in terms of chemistry, locker room, aspect, just bringing a guy this late into the game? Do you think there could be any downside, or do you see any possibility that, could he, I mean, there's nobody would know, but, obviously this has been, how many times has this happened for him now? 6 times? How many suspensions has he been through? So, this is kind of his last chance. I would like to think that he would be motivated to make sure he stays on the straight and narrow, because he pretty much won't get any more chances after this. But do you see any downside to this, any at all, of the idea of bringing Josh Gordon in at this stage of the season?
Honestly, at this point, I'm really struggling to see a downside. The thing with Josh Gordon that we were talking about earlier is how hungry he is to, fighting for his NFL career right now. He's hungry and he has no leverage at all. That is all in the hands of Seattle. Everyone in Seattle is bought in. Everyone's trying to win right now. He knows that he can have an impact immediately as soon as he steps onto the field. Last year, we ended our season by losing 2 straight divisional games. Let's see if we can't change fate this year and advance through those divisional games, and Josh Gordon could be a major reason why, converting key situations early or late in the ballgame. So I really think he's bought in. I really think this is the best situation for him, and I think it's going to benefit us later on down the season. We'll see, kind of like how Carlos Dunlap has the game-winning play, the sack of Kyler Murray that beats the Cardinals. Josh Gordon could have a similar play like that, the first down play that ends the game, essentially, because defenses are out of timeouts, maybe against the Rams, maybe against the Niners. Watch for Josh Gordon to make just 1 or 2 little plays that's going to crucially shift the game in the Seahawks' favor.
If the season plays out the way it looks like on paper it should play out, and that is with the Seahawks, basically they should run the table against those East teams, and then it's going to be Rams, Niners. The Rams, I'm not sure. I know they got to play the Cardinals at some point here, but the Rams at this point should be the second best team in the NFC, meaning NFC West, meaning that it really does come down to a showdown. The playoffs do start when we face the Rams, because if things all stay the same, we're basically, are we a game apart right now? Isn't that the way we are? Game separates
we're one game ahead of the Rams. They have 2 games against the Cardinals and a game against New England.
That's right. They have 2. That's right. I forgot they have 2 games against the Cardinals. They haven't played yet. So if they even drop one of those games, I mean, that's going to be huge. So obviously we're going to be rooting for every team that plays the Rams. But let's just say they sweep and stay right on with us. That means in Week 16, that head-to-head game, I mean, that's going to be, maybe not for sure, but almost divisional deciding, because that would put us at the same record, giving the Rams the advantage because of the head-to-head. However, that final game, then when we play the 49ers, and I don't know do you remember the Rams' last game is to end the season?
It's Arizona. So
it is Arizona.
Twice,
okay.
New England, us, and the Jets.
It's the last one. Okay, so so I guess it could still swing, because potentially if the Cardinals beat the Rams on that last game of the season, we win against the 49ers, well, I guess we could steal it back. But either way, it would be nice to have that comeback game when Josh Gordon returns to the field against the Rams, but that be the time when he can just make a huge impact and put us over the top, because obviously we struggled against the Rams last time. They shut down Jalen Ramsey, shut down DK Metcalf, but I don't think they're going to be able to do this. They won't be facing the same team, especially now with the idea of having Josh Gordon on the field against the Rams. So, yeah. Man, it's exciting. One thing we didn't talk about, and I've only got a few minutes left here, the only thing we didn't talk about yesterday on the roundtables, we didn't talk about the Carlos Dunlap foot sprain / foot injury that came onto the report after during this week after the game. I don't know do you have any more update on that? And obviously, he's been huge. He's been huge to bringing just the level of performance, and really has improved the entire line across the board, from Jaron Reed to LJ Collier. Everyone's game has stepped up with him being in there. Him not being in there would be a huge factor. I don't know. Do you have any update as to what the status of Carlos Dunlap is at this point of the week?
I do believe that he will be available to play, and you mentioned it. He really provided a spark. Rasheem Green's now getting sacks this year. Benson Mayo has popped onto the scene once again. The impact that Carlos Dunlap has had is absolutely huge. So you mentioned it. We definitely need to get him back as soon as possible, but the most important thing is to have him back for that later on stretch in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, since we are playing the, quote, weaker teams, the softest part of our schedule, we don't want to take them too lightly, but we shouldn't have to fire all cylinders, really, to beat these guys. We should be able to pull this off without even having to rely on our best starters being in the game. Alina Dahl in the Super Chat says, think the Hawks will ask Gordon to switch to tight end to take over for the injured Olsen? That's a different role. I just think you can weigh in, but my thought is, tight end, yeah, there are times when a tight end looks like a wide receiver, but the tight end has a lot more responsibilities when it comes to blocking. I don't know about Josh Gordon being a blocking, I don't think he's built to be the blocking type. I could be wrong there, but what's your thoughts? You think that's not an interchangeable position for him?
Well, he's got some size to him. I could see him lining up on the end of the line of scrimmage, but there's no question it's going to be in a 2-point stance, and he's probably going to run a route off of it. Like I said, Josh Gordon, the role will be similar to Greg Olsen, but I don't think he lines up in the same spot as Greg Olsen. He doesn't quite have enough muscle on him to be down there in the trenches. Plus, we just brought up Colby Parkinson. We still have Jacob Hollister, who we love, and, of course, Will Dissly. So we have really good blocking tight ends. We're going to want him for those possession catches, and that's why, even though the formation might be different, the scheme is going to be similar to Olsen, I believe.
At one point you mentioned Will Dissly, and I have to say, of all my predictions, I've been pretty good with my season predictions, other than getting the Arizona Cardinals game swapped and giving the Falcons a win when we beat them pretty handily. But one thing I was way off in the beginning of the year. Do you remember when I said what I thought position group was going to be the biggest impact this year? I thought it was going to be the tight end group. Now, obviously, we lost Greg Olsen, so once he went down, we kind of lost productivity there. But I thought Dissly was going to have a huge season. I was completely wrong. He's had just almost a forgettable number of receptions and touchdowns. I don't even, has he had one touchdown this year, maybe?
He does.
One.
He has at least.
And I thought he was going to have, like the seasons we've had, the last couple of years where he started hot and then he got injured. But he just hasn't been. Hollister's been the man getting the action. What's your thoughts on Will Dissly? Do you think, you have any idea why that is? Or do you think he's just been relegated to a blocking position because of what Olsen was brought in for? But what's your thought on just that, on the Will Dissly tight end position group?
Well, there's a lot of things that go into it. I, too, have to admit 100% fault here. Remember, I was saying Seattle is the best tight end group in the NFL heading into the season. So with Will Dissly, what we're seeing is I feel like it's a lack of opportunity combined with his best strength is not his pass catching. It is his run blocking. So while, yes, his role hasn't been as big in the pass catching department this year, he's had crucial plays at times that have extended drives for us, and he has found the end zone for us. But his role has definitely been mostly felt in the rushing game. And as long as we have a rushing attack while he's in the game, that's the most important thing. He's not getting the credit. Remember preseason, listening to him talk, he was talking about how, this is really an opportunity for him to learn and grow behind Greg Olsen. Now is Will Dissly's time more than ever. But we've seen Jacob Hollister get involved even more than Dissly to this point in the season, and Hollister has been a legitimate threat for us offensively. So I feel like it's kind of like in Tampa Bay how, Leonard Fournette isn't getting as many touches, Cameron Brate's not getting as many touches because there's so many different mouths to feed. DK Metcalf has emerged. He's about to set the Seahawks franchise record this year if he stays healthy for the most receiving yards in a single season, breaking Steve Largent's record. So we have so many options on this offense. I think it's just the fact that there's too many mouths to feed.
Yeah, and we're about to get one more big fast mouth to feed too. Hopefully, when Josh Gordon comes back to the field, but that's a good thing. Having too many mouths to feed, I think, in this situation is a good thing because I think for the most part everybody's got their heads screwed on correctly, and we don't have to worry about people getting ego crazy about not getting the ball and saying, "I'm hungry, feed me." I think we were in a good situation. All right, man, we got to wrap things up, but you got any videos, anything that people should know about coming up in the next few days here as we get into the next, the Giants game on Sunday?
I want to thank you guys all for, hitting that subscribe button for my brother NorbCam, of course, big bro. Everyone's trying to be like him. But then also for myself, the power that Norb has to get me 20 subscribers like that yesterday to push me past 600. Thank you. I just uploaded that video and posted an article on Fan to Fan Network about how good DK Metcalf can really be. So that's still the most recent content of mine that you should definitely go check out. I put a lot of work into that video, so go check that out.
All right. You heard it. Thanks, Squabble, for being on here last minute. And we'll see. It's going to be exciting to hear what happens as we get closer to that Week 16 game and the return of Josh Gordon. In the meantime, keep your eyes open for more videos. Definitely doing a reaction video for the Giants game, as I always do. And I was going to make a big announcement today. Had to push it off because too many things of this breaking news happened. So tomorrow, I'm going to be doing my big announcement. Figure on a Booth Friday would be more appropriate anyway. So enjoy the rest of your day, guys. I do have my Madden simulation later tonight, so you can go check that out. And we'll be talking again soon. Squabble, thanks a lot, man. Go Hawks.